When it comes to at-home arcade machines, I really do enjoy the Arcade1Up library of systems. I obviously own a bunch of them, I have purchased a bunch of them, and I've really been happy with the selection of the games that they've had. Games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam. These were games that I remember playing in the arcade as a kid, and one of their latest titles was, of course, X-Men. Now, X-Men, once again, I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. I remember going to Milford Amusement Center, We've Got the Fun, and going there with my dad and seeing the X-Men arcade cabinet, and it just absolutely blew me away. It had 3 screens, it had this huge panel on it. It was just a monster and a masterpiece of a game. Of course, that game never released on consoles. We never got a 16-bit version of the game. It did end up releasing on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, but when that was taken down off of the digital storefront. So when the X-Men Arcade1Up cabinet was announced, I was like, I need this, you know, this is awesome. But like I said, I've purchased a lot of Arcade1Up machines before in the past and paid, well, $300 or $400 for them. I believe the most expensive system I've ever bought was my NBA Jam machine at $400. But this bad boy, this is $700. Now we're starting to get into really high territory. I paid $700 for this machine. So was it worth that $700 price? Has there been enough stuff done to it to justify the price hike? Now, of course, the price hike has to do with real world situations, shipping issues, but still, you're charging me essentially double for this machine over the other machines I have bought. So I expect there to be a little bit something more. That's what we're gonna find out in today's video. If this is your first time on the channel, hey y'all, make sure you subscribe to the channel and all that stuff. Without any further ado, let's talk about the X-Men Arcade1Up cabinet and whether or not it's worth the $700. So the first thing you're going to notice about the cab is, of course, the design of the cabinet. And I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park with this. Obviously, they had some source material to go off of, but I think they did a really good job. We'll start out with the Marquee. Now, the Marquee does light up on this version of the game, and I think it looks very nice. You know, it's a good-looking Marquee. It's lit up pretty well. It definitely sets the tone for the room and the rest of the arcade cabinet. On the design of this system, on the sides of it, we of course have that classic X-Men design that is exactly like it was in the arcade. Once again, I think they knocked that out of the park. It looks really, really good, and it really gives you that feeling of the original X-Men arcade cabinet that you had back in the day, just, you know, a bit smaller so you can actually fit it in your house. Going down to the control panel of the system, I think it looks nice. I did have a problem with 2 screws not wanting to go into the control panel no matter what I did. It was really weird to me because this is the first time I've ever had it. I actually took it completely out. I put them back in and it just would not go, but it's still on there. It's sturdy and I think it does look very nice. Now, one of the main additions on this cabinet is the arcade door simulator thing. And I think it's cool, but I do have a problem with it. So looking at this, you could see that yes, it has that traditional like arcade look to it where you would insert your coins or your quarters depending on where you are, and then you would be able to play the game. You could press the button and then get your money back. But while I do like the design of this, and I think it looks nice, the problem is you have to do this on the machine because when you're assembling it, there's actually giant holes in the base of the system to where the artwork used to be. Because on every other Arcade1Up, I just have the standard artwork. This was not available on any of those machines that I have purchased. So I kind of would have liked to have the option to put this on there or not. Like maybe if there was 1 or 2 holes on it, you know, for each side, you could sort of get away with not putting it on there. But essentially with this system, you have to put those coin doors on there, and it doesn't match any of my other systems. So that's more of a personal issue to me, but still, I just found it kind of weird that this was like mandatory instead of just an option on this cabinet, because while I like it, I do like the systems to be pretty uniform in the way that they look and the design, and I feel like that sort of offsets it a little bit. But of course, the design of the system doesn't really matter because it's all about the games on the system. It's all about how the games play. And for $700, you would expect top-notch stuff going into it. Yes, I keep harking on that price point, but I mean, let's be realistic. This is double the price of every other Arcade1Up cabinet that I've purchased so far. So how does it do on the gameplay versions of it? Let's talk about it. Alrighty, so here are the games available on our X-Men Arcade1Up. I'm just kind of going with a full-on shot, so you'll see things like my hands and a little light strip in there, but I mean, just deal with it. It's the way it is. So we have X-Men, we have Captain America and the Avengers, and we have the Avengers and Galactic Storm. Now, each one of these games does have their own options. So you can change things like difficulty, add scan lines, attract mode. So if you're not playing it, it'll automatically do it. Nice little things, you know, just decent little things that are, you know, worthy of putting on here. Of course, you have the online stuff where you can play with people. I played with Enos. We beat X-Men the other night. And you have your block list, things of that nature. So good stuff on that aspect. You can see the online leaderboards over here. It's online leaderboards for the characters. Wait, I saw me. I saw me. Where's the Wolver? I'm number 19 in the world, so I mean, obviously not a lot of people have purchased this yet, but it is nice. You know, it's very drop in, drop out. It's nice that there's a lot of different settings. You could do things like scan lines. So let's just check out the other two games before getting into X-Men. So we have Avengers and Galactic Storm. This is a game that I feel like nobody really knows about because I had never even heard of it before. I was very unfamiliar with this title. This is a Data East title, as you can see. And, you know, it's interesting. It's a fighting game, and I'm not the biggest fan of, like, Captain America and stuff like that. So a lot of these people, I don't even know who they are. Actually, the only person I know here is literally Captain America. Oh, that's Thor. That's woman. All right, whatever. So let's just do Captain America. We'll have, oh, Vision from WandaVision. That's kind of neat. You get like a secondary character you can use. I don't really understand how you ever really use them. So here's the game in action. I wouldn't say it's like a terrible fighting game. You know, it's kind of fun, but I will say the animation on it is pretty stiff. It's like 3D characters on a 2D plane, but I don't think they did like a great job with the 3D characters. I mean, that's not a knock on Arcade1Up. That's more of a knock on, you know, the design of the original game, but still, it's kind of like, you know, you could have done a little bit better, I feel, on the animation and stuff. This came out in the mid-90s. Obviously, Data East wasn't really known for one-on-one fighters, so this isn't a terrible game, but it's not something that I would see myself like coming back to a lot, especially when I have superior fighting games on Arcade1Up machines. There's little combos in there and stuff. So you can see, you know, it's not bad, but it's definitely a filler title. I don't think anyone would buy this system. You know, like the Marvel Superheroes cabinet. You could buy that and just play X-Men Children of the Atom, which is a secondary game on there, because that game's awesome. Whereas this game, you know, it's not so great. Let's check out the other games. So now we have Captain America and the Avengers once again. I'm not the biggest fan of Captain America, and it's kind of weird because two of the three games on the X-Men arcade cabinet are indeed Captain America games. And I'm sure Captain America is a fine character, but it's just kind of weird how Captain America overtakes this system. And really, I don't like this game at all. Like, you can just see why. The sprites are tiny. Like, why is everything so small in this game? The gameplay itself is pretty fun, and once you get used to it, you know, it's definitely not bad, but it's like, I'm not super interested in this game, you know? I'm not the biggest fan of Captain America. I bought this because I'm an X-Men fan. So I understand like X-Men Children of the Atom is already on another system. That's fine, put it on here. Why not? You would have to do the buttons up and things like that. So I kind of get it. It's a really interesting process if you think about it though, like how these games get decided as to whether or not they're going to be put on a certain cabinet. But you know, it's fine. The audio is fine in the game. There's voices and stuff, and you know, you got the characters. I guess people know Living Laser and Claw. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Captain America guy in the world. It's not a bad game, but the sprite size is definitely a turn off for me. I like big chunky sprites in my beat 'em up games, and it just feels like you're losing a lot of real estate here. I was like, why not put a Spider-Man game or something? I don't know. But of course, these aren't the games that we're here for. We're here for the marquee title of X-Men, so let's check that out. And finally, we have X-Men, the marquee title, the reason you buy this system. I will say right off the gate, everything does look nice. It has the voice samples from the arcade version. I believe they slightly changed the voice samples on the Xbox 360 version of the game, so it was nice to see that. I'm obviously playing as Wolverine here. But there's a problem with this game, and it's the sound levels. The sound levels, for some reason, are all over the damn place. Like, it's really weird, and it's kind of hard to explain. And even beyond, oh, that button's crinkling a little bit. That sounds lovely. Even beyond just the sound levels themselves being off, like, it crackles. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit and just play, and you can hear what I'm talking about. So yeah, like the sound levels are just kind of all over the place, and it's like you can't really find like a happy medium with the sound on this system. Obviously, it's just the one notch where you hit up and down on it. That squeaking button is really annoying me. But you know, it's something where you just hit up and down on it and adjust it. And usually like in the middle is fine for like every other machine that I have that has this feature on it, but you can barely hear it unless you're going like all the way up, and then you hear that crackling audio. Then you hear just how the sound levels are kind of, you know, all over the place. The sound effects outweigh the music in the game, and sometimes the sound effects themselves are louder than, you know, other things in the game, and that's kind of a disappointment. The game still plays great. It still looks great. Like I said, it has the original voices and stuff in it, but it's like, why is the sound so wonky on this? It wasn't my setup or anything like that. You can't really mess up the setup of one of these systems. It's basically just down to the version of the game that they're using or whatever emulation they're doing with it. And I just feel like that's a bit half-assed in my opinion, because I'm paying $700. That is a premium product price. I should be getting excellent sound quality. I should be getting, you know, top-notch stuff here. And just to see stuff like that, and I guess hear stuff like that, is definitely a bit of a disappointment. So overall, I don't hate this machine, and I don't feel like I wasted my $700, but I definitely wish that the $500 option that was briefly up on Walmart's website was the more readily available option. Like, that's the problem with these systems nowadays. If you're talking about a $100 price increase and I don't get things like the stool and the stand and a light-up marquee, that's okay. You know, I will pay $500 for that because I understand that the real-world situations are obviously impacting this with shipping supplies and chips and wood prices and all that. But to have to buy the $700 version because that's the only one that's readily available to where you could buy it on a website and not have to hope for a 30-second glimmer of hope on a Walmart website, that to me is where the problem lies, because this machine, while it's beautiful and while the games themselves play good, things like the sound quality, like that's unacceptable. Things like the arcade doors being mandatory on it, I don't like that. I really feel like they need to offer a la carte things for these systems, and then the premium version of the system. You can have less of the a la carte systems, that's fine, because people are still going to buy the premium editions, especially if they have a lot of nostalgia towards the system and the game that's on here. But for me, I would have been much happier buying a $500 version without all the little bells and whistles like the light up marquee and the stool that I'm never going to use and the stand I'm not going to use, because I have a whole fleet of these. I have a bunch of these. If I put one of these on a stand, it's going to stick out and look kind of weird. Like, I guess I could put it next to the iArcade machine, but I don't want to. I don't want to do the stands. I'm not interested in the stands. So it's a good machine. You know, at the end of the day, I am having fun with it. The game quality is definitely sort of all over the place, I feel, and the fact that the audio on the games is definitely very distracting. For that $700 price point, I expect crisp audio and just pristine audio, and to hear crackling and just the audio levels themselves being all over the place in terms of volume, it's definitely a bit disappointing. You know, it's still a good machine. I'm still gonna have fun with it, but it's kind of indicative of my Arcade1Up collecting nowadays. I've definitely slowed down on it. I've definitely sort of lost interest in buying every single system that comes out because of the price point. And now that we have these issues with quality control on the systems, it's definitely something to raise your eyebrow going towards the future. even though I've already bought The Simpsons and it's coming in next week. But those are my thoughts on the X-Men Arcade1Up machine from Arcade1Up. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of this. Do you think it's worth the $700 price point? Will you try to find the $500, I think it's $529 version that sometimes pops up on Walmart's website? Do you hope they offer more options for this in the future? Because I think it would make it a lot easier for people to have to buy these systems around $500 and maybe not get all the bells and whistles if they're not the biggest fan of it in the world. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like and share the video. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.